The Roots of Conflict, Thought, Division, and True Understanding. Of course, based off The Awakening Intelligence by j.Krishnamurti. All right. So this presentation, we're going to explore how inner fragmentation creates outer conflict and how silence, not thought, reveals truth. This is just all based off my notes and whatever I highlighted. If you care, read the book. Anyways, so what is thought according to Krishnamurti? Thought is the mechanical echo of memory. So thought arises as a reaction from memory. It is a conditioned process. It's based off past experiences. Remember, it is very mechanical. Very mechanical. By mechanical, I mean if you ever programmed, or even when you text, or even when you're in a search bar and searches are recommended to you, and sometimes we don't feel like thinking and we just go with what's popping up, when you're typing up, but that's based off your search history, and search history can be thought of memory. You know what I mean? It's not emotional, it's mechanical. All right. No thoughts exist without words. Recognizing that most thoughts are just recycled memory helps you stop mistaking them for truth. Remember, we got to stop mistaking them as the truth, okay? And just start seeing them as objects. So who understands if not thought? Understanding emerges in silence, not logic. True understanding is not achieved through reasoning or thinking. And I can definitely attest to this. My best ideas, my best discovery has been like a cosmic download. You know what I mean? And besides, a lot of things that you can't think your way through has probably been thought of already. Yes. All the best ideas come out of nowhere, if that makes sense. So with a quiet mind, understanding arises. When the mind is quiet and not analyzing, clarity is brought about through silence. We cannot bring clarity with more thought, because thought is cluttered. Thought is clutter. Deep clarity comes not from overthinking, but from letting go of the need to figure out. Why is the mind divided? The origin of the division lies within us. We divide life into categories: physical, emotional, and spiritual. And the external world simply reflects that. This external division that we see is just a reflection of our inner psychological split. The mind creates fragmentation. That is what the mind does. It's constantly putting things in boxes. Why? Because it helps us survive. This is safe. This is dangerous. This helps me survive. This doesn't help me survive. This person's a friend. This person's not a friend. The world looks divided because we are divided inside. Wholeness begins by understanding our own mind. Where does division begin? The conflict starts between the thinker and the thought. The mind splits into a controller and the controlled. Then there is inner tension. I must be this versus I must not be that. That creates an inner tension that hurts. It's this existential, it's suffering. It's that pain that no one but us sees. It's the illusion of separation. There's no real separation, just thought posing as two. Most inner conflict is just thought arguing with itself. Awareness reveals the illusion. A lot of people can be rich and not happy. Why? Because they're suffering in silence. Money cannot cure the internal. Money cannot cure the internal at all. Only we can, through silence. So when do we try to change what is? Change arises when we resist reality. So I'm not talking about like positive change, but this desire to change. Because the desire to change what presently is, it's also an unhappiness with the present, if that makes sense. Like a non-acceptance. And by not accepting what is, it's not a great time. There's friction. There is not love and compassion. There is friction. It feels prickly. So we try to fix what is without understanding ourselves. There's a conflict with the present. The desire to change implies conflict with the present, and then there is despair and realization. Despair comes when we realize we can't change the outside without clarity within. You know, real change begins with understanding yourself, not trying to fix the external world. Because hear me out. It could be weight. It could be friendship, relationships. It could be hell, richness, wealth. Right? You could try your best. You know, some do. Some people have luck. If you're an average person, right, you could try your best to change these things. But, you know, you know, I genuinely believe if you are successful internally, you will be without a doubt successfully externally. The reason I say this is because let's say you're obese for non-medical reasons, right? And you're working harder at the gym, that isn't going to do shit for you. Why? Because ultimately there's underlying reasons why you were obese in the first place, if that makes sense, right? And we're talking you don't have no illnesses and stuff. Ultimately, the whole purpose, reason why people become overweight for the most part is food is pleasurable. Fast food is pleasurable. We live, and it's a coping mechanism. It's a coping mechanism. You could push yourself all you want. We're still trying to cope. We have to figure out why we're coping. You know what I mean? Why are we coping? You know, same thing. Like you want money so bad. Why do you want money so bad? Why do you want to change your life situation so bad? Where is this hurt coming from? When we want things outside of us, those things are just temporary band-aids for something. And the thing is, once we get that and like I said, temporary band-aid, and once we put that band-aid on, it moves on to the next, and then the next, the next, and the next. You know, we got our demons, and the demons, you know, it morphs, it shifts, and the only way is to go inside and watch and let go. So, who is the observer? The observer is born from resistance. The observer appears when we want change. It's a split between the seer and the seen. I don't like what is creates a split between the seer and the seen. So, with true observation, there is no observer, just presence. The act of judging creates the observer. Pure awareness exists without conflict or division. That is that wholeness. There is no I when we are whole. There is no I when we are whole, because someone must be watching the I. What is I and what is I not? You know, that is the observer and the observed. It's to move beyond. And guess what? If I could guide you, whoever's watching this, it's basically, you know, thought is one of the best way to self-stim, if you get me. Like, you could also think about it as like learning to not stimulate, because in a way thought is very stimulating. You know, it's something to do. I've always been that guy. Hell, right now I'm actually tapping my feet, and thought is sort of like that. And you know, we want peace, but there's a discomfort that comes with the peace. You know what I mean? You could call it boredom in a way as well, because you know, letting go of thought is kind of like letting go of your phone. It's like, what do I do now? You're in line. You could be on your phone, or you could be off your phone. You could be thinking or not thinking. And then once you're off your phone and you're in line, you're like, like, oh, what am I doing here? Like, there's a sort of discomfort, you know? Same thing with letting go of thought. It's sort of like that. So how does memory create new conflict? The desire to repeat the past creates suffering. Remembering a joyful moment and wanting again sets up inner conflict. Chasing what we had. We chase what we had but can't recreate it. 3. Trapped in longing. The mind traps itself in longing and in comparison. Trying to relive a beautiful moment guarantees disappointment. Letting go invites something new. And to this, I say, I mean, we're all human. Let's say you had a significant other person and they're gone now. Let them go. Let them go. No matter how badly you want to relive, just let them go. Because the thing is this, um, the whole inner workings of the mind is really interesting. Like, for example, you do have to protect your attention with a viciousness. Can't you have like listen? You can be aware of the fact of you could be aware of the fact that you're okay. In this moment, we're talking about like a significant other because I think that's something common and powerful that we can all relate to. You can, first of all, you can acknowledge that you missed them. You can acknowledge that there was great times. You can even be aware of yourself um, thinking. But our number one duty is to protect our attention because our attention can completely derail our life, Because, you know, let's say I'm thinking about an ex, right? I could be aware of this. But at least from my understanding of reading, we cannot. I mean, I'm not gonna say we should not, but my advisement is to not put your attention on that thought itself, because where attention goes, energy flows. All right. Even if it doesn't serve us, yes, we can be aware of it and not deny it, but our attention should not be on there. So what do I mean by that? You could think of your attention as the anchor. You know, you could look at a pile of clothes and you're aware of the entire clothes, you're aware of everything around there more or less, but chances are there might be something in the pile of clothes that you're kind of keyed in on. You know what I mean? Like they're kind of like narrowed on, because the way I would describe attention is kind of like an anchor. So if I'm having an ex and I'm thinking about the past, I first acknowledge it. I'm aware that it's happening, but where is my attention? It's not on that. I know it's happening, but my attention is actually on my breathing. It's here. Maybe hear the birds. Maybe taste the air. Touch something, and get into that habit. Honestly, like use your ex as a stepping stone for a higher vibration, a higher level of consciousness. But or hell, you might hate a job or something. Just remember that, make that a habit, and within around, if you're really consistent and it's really crazy, I say you're looking at like 6 to 6 days. I say give about like 6 months of consistency. You'll be good. Sorry if I'm chatting. I'm just trying to get this video out there for consistency's sake, and also major points are on the PowerPoint. So final slide. So what? Freedom begins in seeing, not controlling. The mind's fragmentation leads to conflict and confusion. Thought cannot resolve. Thought cannot resolve what it created. And observing without judgment. Observing without judgment is the first step towards real intelligence and peace. You don't need to fix yourself, only need to see yourself clearly. In that seeing, freedom begins. Remember, you need to see yourself. See yourself with clarity. And if you are not taking the time out of your day to look inside your world, when are you? Like, when are you? To me, meditation is essentially just taking a look inside of yourself. And if you've never done that, or if you rarely do that, be prepared for clutter. Be prepared. That's why there's this thing called shadow work. Before you can even see yourself, you must declutter and actually reach source. Now, what does that mean? Figure it out for yourself. Is there a difference between that source we discover and what they call God or the higher power? That's up for you to figure out and decide. But I'll leave y'all with that. That is all. Definitely check out the book if you made it this far. And good luck on your journey, my people. Bye bye.